So it's been a few weeks since my preliminary test fit, because if you recall, I said I had to order the brake lines for the rear from the guy. Now I had a very weird experience with that. Well, first let's note that since then I have built a carport. This is going to be a tremendous help. I am evicting my girlfriend. She will now park here. I'm just kidding. She's pretty happy about this, but I have to move her car so I can have some nice shade to work in because it is wicked hot outside. If anybody needs a carport, get one of these. They are insanely hard to build. There's like a million screws and stuff, but it's totally worth it. Anyhow, so I had a very interesting experience in ordering these rear brake lines, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how to feel about this. I'm happy and relieved, and at the same time I'm a bit concerned about what would have been. So when I reached out to Function Work in saying that I need these rear lines, because remember I said brake kit only came with the front lines, they said, hey, by the way, what year is your car? So I said 2022, and then they said, do you mind if we send you a new pair of caliper brackets and then you can return us the old caliper brackets? And I was like, what? What's wrong with the old ones? And if I had never reached out to them for the rear brake lines, I would have been using the old ones that came with the kit. So apparently they sent me these new ones, and if you could see, this side is not powder coated, and the reason it's not is because if you look closely, they shaved off about 2 millimeters of material from this surface, which means these brackets that come with this brake kit do not fit perfectly. Come on, guys. Come on. So I did my test fit with these brackets, and I thought they fit okay. I could have been wrong, but apparently these fit better. So I don't know how I feel about this. You know what I mean? Because I would have installed it. The caliper would have been off to one side a little bit more than it should be. I don't know if that would have equated to the rotor rubbing against the inside of the caliper, or maybe the brake pads wearing unevenly. I don't know. So I'm happy the guy caught it, but like, what the hell? You know? What about other people who are buying the kit from... Like I said, I didn't buy this kit directly from Function Work. I bought it from Axion. There are other distributors that I'm sure are carrying this brake kit that other people are going to buy, and they're going to mail them out with the non-modified bracket. I don't know. Anyhow, I'm going to install it with these new ones. Pray for the best. They send me a shipping label to send these back to them, whatever. So let's get this show on the road. I have to swap around these cars. I don't know if you guys want to hear how ungodly loud this thing is, but I waited till noon so I don't wake up the neighbors. Let's see here. I don't drive this car. I've driven it maybe twice since I've met my girlfriend. I don't care for it. I don't fit in it. And this is why. How do you get in here? So my girlfriend's 5'1" and I'm 6'4". There's a roll cage in here. Anytime I try to look over the windshield, the hood, my head hits the ceiling. This car is the size of a boat, and it does not accommodate a person who is 6'4". Meanwhile, my Civic is half the size, and I have 4 feet of headroom, so it makes no sense. But I'm going to put this camera very far away from the car so the exhaust doesn't blow out the speakers, the microphone I mean. And wish me luck. Yeah, so this car basically makes this car sound silent. Let's see if the camera will catch this one when I turn it on. I don't know. Did you hear it? Did you hear it? It's on. Alright, I'm gonna move these cars. Be right back. Yeah. It's hot. Even this guy's hot. So I swapped the cars around and I prepped this guy. Got all four wheels off, got it up on jack stands. It's about 85 degrees outside and I'm sweating through my shirt and I'm in the shade. So without this guy up here, this would have probably been impossible. So I just want to take a minute to shout out all the mechanics at shops and dealerships who work all summer long with no air conditioners. You guys are troopers, because this ain't the life for me. Waiting for this guy to go pee or poop or something. Way too hot to walk him outside. If you guys have dogs, don't walk them outside on the asphalt in this weather, because they'll burn their paws. Sorry for the rant, I'm taking a little break here. So anyhow, I'm going to start with the fronts. This one's closest to my garage door entrance where my tools are, so I'm going to start here. Got myself a little bench to sit on. Brake line comes off. ABS line comes off. This is a 10mm. This is a 12mm. I'm going to remove the caliper just like on my test fitting. I'm going to swing it around and rest it on this box. I am not going to break off the brake line yet, because I don't think I want to make a brake fluid mess until I'm done with all four corners, which just seems to make the most sense. So I'm going to install the new caliper. I'm going to install the brake line off this end, and then once I'm ready, I'm going to crack this guy open and switch the two lines. I'm going to switch the rubber line for the stainless line and hope for the best. So since my test fitting, these came out a lot easier, these little guys. If this is your first time ever, especially 3 years into owning the car, and you're going to do a brake job, again, beware of these guys. They will mess your whole life up. Soak them in rust penetrant for a little while, put a screwdriver into them, hit them as hard as you can with a hammer a couple of times just to get some vibrations through there, and then try one of these guys, an impact. So I got an impact rated number 3 screwdriver, and this is what I was using. So the fronts gave me hell, and now I did the rears, and instead of just going right in with this, I went in with the penetrant, and then I went in with a screwdriver. I basically put it against the screw and I malleted it for like 5 minutes, and then I came back again,
Another couple of minutes later, I put some more rust penetrant, and then I hit it with this guy. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? I lost it already. Wow, I'm in bad shape today. Here we go. I hit it with this guy. So that may be your best hope. So if you do manage to get all 4 out successfully, when you put them back in, put a tiny little drop, like as tiniest as possible, of anti-seize on these threads, because you don't want to ever go through that again. And that anti-seize will last you probably for the life of the car. Hey buddy, you here to help me? You don't even have thumbs. How are you gonna help me? He's not here to help me. He's here to get pets. Dexter, hey, you here for pets? He's here for pets. Okay, I'm going to Dex, get out of here. Scram. My favorite command, scram. Listens every time. He's ready to go home. I'm going to take off this caliper now. Maybe I'll film it, maybe I won't, I don't know. 1 bolt here, 1 bolt here. You don't even need to take these off, because these are only if you're changing your brake pads. You can take off these 2 bolts right here, and you could swing the caliper and leave the bracket on, and then you could swap out your brake pads. But since I'm removing this whole clump of crap, I'm leaving these 2 on, and I'm removing these 2 over here, and that will remove the whole caliper. And it'll be easier to put away for storage. Let me go put this dog back in the house before he gets a heat stroke. Alright, so this is a lot easier if you turn the steering wheel to the right on this side and to the left on the other side. 19mm big boy impact. Like butter. Hold that. Just wiggle it right off. The brake pads are a little bit seated on the rotor, so just shimmy it a little bit. Careful not to drop it, because it'll snag this line and you'll have a problem. So now I'm gonna leave this on this box that I set up here. And that's it, it's out of the way. Now, since I removed that little pesky screw, this guy comes right off. And that's it. Now, if you recall from the other video, we got to bend this back, so bend that back a little bit carefully, evenly. Don't want to make a mess, and test fit the new rotor. Okay, so I use these guys. The closest point is this sharp bend and this sharp bend, so even though I pushed this a lot with my hand, it didn't do much. These kept touching, so I took some pliers and just kind of gave it a little bit of wiggle room like that, here and there. And now get your little screws, anti-seize, literally the smallest amount. Like, this stuff spreads and it gets everywhere, so if you haven't used this before, like literally tiny little dot like that is gonna do all the work you need. Contact, nope, now the bottom's contacting again because I fiddled with it to show you guys. So let's take this. Should be good. Still touching. Yeah, this is gonna take some finesse because you don't want to go crazy and really bend it out of shape. At least I don't. And look at that, I ripped it. And that's why. Just ripped a hole in it. I don't even know how. That's how thin that metal is. Close that hole back up. No big deal. Jeez. Not having a good time with this. Still touching. Maybe I just don't have the proper leverage sitting on this chair. Okay. I would say use your rubber mallet, but it'll probably just bounce back. Worth a shot. Hey, what do you know? It worked. We're not touching the metal anywhere. Now you take your little screw here. Your little screw. Gently feed it in there. Now remember, this screw is for assembly purposes only. It does nothing to hold the rotor in place because once the lugs are tightened, the rotor gets put in place. So this is literally, you could use it, you could not use it, so you don't have to go crazy tightening it because it's going to bite you in the butt next time. So just hand tight and it's fine. Double check the shield. Still a little close up top. Pry it away. And that's perfect. Now we're ready to put the caliper on. Okay, grab yourself a bracket. Grab yourself 2 of these Allen bolts. These are 10mm Allen keys. And grab yourself a caliper. Make sure it's the right one. Brake bleeders face upward. So what I didn't show, brake caliper grease. Put a little bit of grease. I didn't take the pads out because I didn't feel like dismantling this. It's already assembled. But you can slide them towards the middle like I did and wiggle them and put some grease on the contact points because they're going to want to slide around. You don't want your your pistons to start acting up because when they're pushing it, these are C's to the slider and they won't slide. So put some grease there, pop them back in, and wipe the excess off. And you're ready for install. Okay, so these are the 2 original bolts from the original caliper. You are reusing them into here. And then the new calipers come with these Allen bolts. These will mount the caliper to the bracket. So first things first, they specify 70 foot-pounds of torque, but they do not specify Loctite. I've done big brake kits before. Everybody always says use some blue Loctite since these are no longer OEM parts. Just as a safety measure, I'm going to do a tiny little bit on the threads. I have this gel stuff. Kind of like the gel. Just put some on the threads. Don't go crazy. It's just a safety measure. Get your torque wrench. Now grab a bracket. They're both the same, so it doesn't matter which bracket you grab. The important part is where the letters are inscribed. That is facing the rotor. So these letters are facing the rotor, and then they go like this behind the knuckle. Take a bolt, feed it through by hand. There's one. This is a pretty easy and straightforward job. The worst part of this install is going to be bleeding the brake fluid, and that's just messy and everybody hates doing that. So let's see how these brackets match up to the original ones they sent me, because now I'm a little bit weary. While we're here, let's put some just on the tip, not the whole thing, because most of this bolt lives inside the caliper and only the tip of it ends up being in here. Maybe about that much, so just do a little bit here. There. Rub it into the threads. Put the cap back on so it doesn't dry out. Okay, now I wish I could use this. A couple of ugga-duggas, but let's be proper and do it by torque specs. Set this guy to 70 foot-pounds and torque. That's it. That's it. Let's give it one more click just in case. Alright. Very good. Very good. Nothing touches, nothing touches. Grab this big bad boy. Like I said, brake bleeders always go upward. I don't know why I explain these things. Chances are, if you don't know stuff like this, you probably shouldn't be doing serious modifications to your car, but I guess it makes for good video. Carefully sit this guy on here. Guess I should show you where I'm putting these guys in. Always by hand. Always go first by hand. Gotta make sure you catch that thread instead of just sending it with a gun or something. Okay. Now let's check these clearances, because I test fitted it with the non-modified brackets first. Let's see where the difference is. So I'm assuming since they shaved a little bit off the bracket, this sits perfectly center, and before it was probably closer to the rotor on one side. See, it's like notched right there. So that makes sense. Makes sense. I guess I got lucky that I called them and they did the right thing, so far they're okay in my book. Hand tighten these guys. So the only 10 I have is a smaller whatchamacallit, 3/8, and my torque wrench is a 1/2. So I got a little adapter here. No shame in using adapters. They get the job done. There we go. There we go. like the look of this already. Like the look of this already. So now we're going to feed in the brake line and route it around and let it dangle, I guess. So yeah, I'm going to feed in the brake line. I'll let it dangle, and then when I do all 4 corners, then I'm going to disconnect the stock caliper brake line from right here and quickly connect the new dangling brake line right there to make as least mess as possible and introduce as least air into the system as possible. Okay, so this is the new line. It comes with a new banjo bolt. It comes with 2 copper crush washers. Make sure you do not forget these little crush washers. Imperative, or you'll have a big leak and maybe die. 20 foot-pounds on this one. I'm not tightening it yet. And 10 foot-pounds on this one. Now the difference here, so by the way, I soaked this when I first began with a little bit of penetrant, so I don't mess this up. Maybe it'll help me unthread it easier. This little line right here is a clip. You grab it with something and you pull it towards yourself. You do that after you unscrew this, because this is what's holding this in place, and the way this is held in place, this is half a circle and a flat part on the bottom of this, whereas on the new line it's a different design. It's a more universal design. This is a 17 millimeter nut, so when you connect that, this will no longer hold on like this piece does, so you'll have to hold this with a wrench and tighten this with a wrench. This is either 8 or a 10 millimeter. So yeah, unscrew this, pull this out. No, sorry. No, I'm correct. You unscrew that, then pull this out. This will come right out. And you'll put this in, hold it with a 17, and screw this back on, and you'll be good. So 10 foot-pounds of torque, 20 foot-pounds of torque. And this is a 12 millimeter. So that's a wrap for this side, I think. Oh, well, I have to put this bracket back on because this lives in this bracket. And before you tighten it, you have to figure out what orientation you want this in so that it has proper slack for suspension movement. But I'll go over all of that when I tighten everything back up and when I install the lines. Pretty much at the end of the video, I'll go over what all of these lines should look like, because you don't want stress on these. I've noticed that the stainless lines they sent me with the kit are actually both front and rear a little longer than the stock lines, which I'm pretty sure it's on purpose because stainless doesn't bend as easy as rubber does, so they want to give you a little bit more slack to play with to compensate for your suspension traveling up and down. You don't want to bend or kink stainless lines too much. So, all right, that's a wrap for one corner. I'm going to do the same thing in the front, and then I'm going to move on to the rears and install my plain Jane rotors and brake pads. All right, so got this side on, looking good. So brake line should look somewhat like this. This is going straight up, have a little bit of slack here, a little bit of slack here, and like I said, I'm leaving this hanging until I'm ready for brake fluid. So then I just undo this guy, swap this over, and hope for minimal messiness. Anyhow, in regards to the rears, this car, if you may already know, has an electronic parking brake. It squeezes in, and it's not like a handbrake where you pull it, or the pedal brake where you push it and it locks. You push a button and it electronically squeezes your rotor. So the proper way to do this is with a scanner. And if you guys are looking for rear brake videos, I know in my last video somebody asked me to make a video for this when I posted my turbo video, I think it was. There's a lot of videos online saying how to do it without the code reader. I bought it. I mean, it was like, I don't know, 150 bucks or something, and I'll be able to use it for any other Honda or Acura. So to me, to not have to dismantle all of this and, you know, be scared that O-rings are messed up or whatever, or seating back properly, like, I get it, everybody wants to save a buck, but I'm doing it properly. So I bought this guy. This is a Foxwell NT 530 Plus, and I went through a bunch of menus. There's a Honda Acura specific menu, and if you toggle through all of them, you'll find yourself here at brake pad maintenance mode. So I'm going to select that and check the following conditions: release parking brake, stop the vehicle. So release the parking brake. Oh, actually I have to hold the brake pedal. Okay, I released the parking brake. Enter brake pad maintenance mode, and F3 is okay. Yep, it did it. It released the brake pads, I'm assuming. I think, I hope, I don't know. We'll see. It made a whole bunch of noise, so I'm assuming it worked. Transition to exchange mode has been completed. Perform rear brake pad maintenance. When pad maintenance is complete, you must return to normal mode. F3, okay. Okay. So there's going to be an option for back to normal mode. I'm not going to use that yet. I will power down the car and unplug this guy. All right, so now with that said, I'm going to remove this bracket. To these guys, so there's these little caps. This plastic guy and this plastic guy has these caps in it. You have to pop the cap out, and then you can't see it, but if you look in there, I used a little mirror to see what's in there, and I found out that it was a 7mm, very odd number for Honda, 7mm Allen key. And you can, I already broke them loose, that's why it's spinning so easily. You can break these guys loose. So with the parking brake electronically released, I should be able to take this off. And well, what that basically means is that the piston that is in this caliper got electronically pulled back into its housing. Normally, with like older cars that don't have these electronic parking brakes, you have to manually push the piston back into the caliper, and this is not the case. So this bracket has to be removed. It's just a little 10mm bolt that holds the bracket to the chassis in here, but it gets in the way of getting the 7mm Allen key, so you have to remove it. Hope that makes sense. Should have brought a little 90-degree electric wrench, because this is kind of awkward to do by hand, but I already started filming the video, so whatever. Okay, so now this guy's out. That's a long pin. Should have pulled it out of here too. Very long pin. Now, it doesn't look like that piston really retracted, if you ask me. Looks like it's still holding on to the rotor, which is weird. Huh. I mean, I heard the noise, so I'm not sure what to make of that. All fun. Okay, so I removed this little pin. You just basically pull it forward, and then I used a little pry bar to pry the caliper off of the bracket. So I mean, this does not look very retracted. I was under the impression that with the scanner, maintenance mode makes this go back in, but it's not in. And this is the thickness of my brake pads. This is the rear. Good amount of life on them left after 3 years of driving, 52,000 miles. And they're worn evenly, which is good. The front brake pads were worn more on the inside than the outside. The outside pad looked almost new, and the inside pad was almost gone. And that's the problem with these floating calipers, is that it only has a piston on one side, or two pistons on one side, and the piston pushes the brake pad. So this pad is doing all the work, and this pad is doing nothing. You know what I mean? Whereas a fixed caliper, like this big brake kit that I'm installing, has pistons on both sides, and they push both brake pads, so you get even wear and stronger braking. Anyhow, I'm getting sidetracked. This does not look fully in, and I don't think I should push it since it's electronic. I'm going to try to fit the new brake pads in with this the way it is, and I don't think it's going to work because it has to account for the thickness of the new pads. But also I have to take this bracket off, and to do that, these two right here are 17 millimeters, so I broke them with a big breaker bar since there's not much room for a gun back there. And then I'm just gonna take them off by hand. So also, the other thing I have done to release this is all dangling here. I took off a 12 millimeter here and a 12 millimeter here. See this little bracket and bracket? That way this has some more wiggle room here. Or I could just take this off, but this doesn't seem like a button and I don't want to break it. So let me figure out how to remove this, and then I can move this caliper off completely to the side. Okay, got it. So here's the new rotor. Nice and black. Old one is ugly silver. Brackets are off, brake pads are off. To disconnect this little guy, you just need to stick a little pick in there and it pulls right out. Prop this up on a box. I did figure out how to retract the piston back in. So basically when you use the scanner tool, all it does is internally it backs up the motor, but the piston doesn't get pulled in. You have to manually push the piston in. It doesn't take much force. You cannot do it by hand, but this is what I did. Big C-clamp, one end here, one end here, minimal effort, and it went right back in. Also took this bracket off. I'm gonna see if maybe I can paint my calipers. Since this line is coming off anyway, I'm wondering if I can break this open and plug that hard line and keep it from dripping. If I can do that, then that'll buy me some time, and I can paint these, clean them up nice and paint them, because the best time to paint your calipers is off the car instead of masking everything away and you know, making a big mess and overspray and stuff. So let me see what I can do here. Yep, decided to paint the rear calipers, and man, I'm messy. Okay, so I took off the caliper from the line. I still have this line hanging, and I plugged it with a little rubber plug that I found from a brake bleeder kit. It's a perfect rubber plug. It shoves in there, and as you can see, fluid is not pouring out. Got a couple of drops there from when I opened it, and that's it. I did the same thing on the other side. The rotors are on. Actually, I didn't do the same thing. The other side, I only had one rubber plug like that. On the other side, I used another little doozy. This guy. Oop. This guy. I don't know what that is, but it's shoved in the hole and didn't make much of a mess. So when you get a brake bleeder kit, like a generic one from AutoZone or whatever. It comes with all these little fitments and attachments to help you plug and bleed. So I think these guys, these little cones, I'm going to use to stuff in this hard line. When I break this line open, I'm going to jam it in there and hopefully that holds. But yeah, the rotors look good, nice and black. So since everything was off the car, I probably should have filmed this, but it was so hot. So I got a wire brush on a drill. I got a nylon brush. I have a brass brush and a bunch of brake cleaner. So I brushed everything as clean as I possibly could. And I got this caliper paint. I don't know if it's any good or not, but we'll see. The color looks pretty good so far. So yeah, I masked everything off as good as I could. This is the first coat. Masked off all the plastic, the electronic motor part as best I could. I stuffed a little plug into the hole where the brake line goes so it wouldn't get contaminated. The only things I couldn't mask off were these rubber parts. They have another rubber seat right there, so I just shoved these plastic clips right into there and it fits perfectly, and I'm going to take them out later and then the rubber won't be painted. I'll show you what those are also. So, and then these are drying after their second coat. The brackets, they look pretty good. They look pretty good. I think it's going to be a nice touch because they were literally the last thing on the car that were silver. So on a car that's all red and black, I don't think silver goes well with anything. Well, let me show you those clips that I stuffed in. So if you get one of these assortment boxes for all sorts of panel clips, like door clips, window clips, all these little thingamajings, one of them's got to fit. So these guys right here, I shoved right into that little rubber seal, and this ring is basically what's blocking the rubber ring from being painted red. So that worked out. It's always good to hoard random crap. These were all the things that I was trying to plug the brake lines with. I was trying to find things to prevent dripping. These work pretty well sometimes. Mine wasn't quite the right size. This is a valve stem for a tire. If you jam this into the brake line, you may or may not get a good seal. Blah. Oh, I'm tired. So this one did not work for me. This is the only one I had, and it was dripping very slowly, which is okay, I guess, but you know, you let it drip slowly for an hour or two while you're painting the calipers, and before you know it, you're out of fluid in your master cylinder, and then your brake bleed job becomes a hell of a lot harder than it would have been. So, oh, I thought I was bleeding, but I guess that's paint. What is that? Yeah, basically, let me show you. So if you have some of these guys laying around, you can basically shove it right into the brake line, and the rubber part prevents fluid from dripping out of the line. But anyhow, I didn't need it because I found some other better plugs. This is the brake bleeder kit that I have, and like I said, it comes with an assortment of all these little fittings and stuff, so sometimes they come in handy. I'm not even going to be using this gun because these suck. I learned from this car that these little vacuum guns tend to leak and have air leaks, so I'm going to use the old-fashioned method, just a regular straw. This thing is nice. This little fitting, it goes right over the bleeder, and the other end goes into a water bottle or whatever, but I'll get there when I get there. I found it interesting that the rear rotors are pretty much the same diameter as the front rotors. That's pretty unusual these days. What else? That's about it. So I'm just waiting for the calipers to dry, and then I'm going to give them another coat. It says you can handle them after 30 minutes and drive it after 24 hours, and then the heat from the driving will be what bakes it on. So I'm going to leave this car here after I reassemble everything. I'll leave it for curing tomorrow. I'll take my Civic out on the road. But yeah, so next thing's up. I might just start connecting these lines over while the calipers are drying. So I might, yeah. Like I said, this is how this looks. This is adjustable. You could pull this in and out. You can adjust the length of this, how much is on this side and how much is on this side. That'll be all done later when everything is connected. And you know, once you connect everything, you can turn the wheel a few times, see where this may or may not touch another suspension component. I think they put this padding here in case it reaches the tie rod while you're turning and going over bumps, so it's some extra padding. I don't know. All right, this side's done. So you're gonna need something like this, like I said, to pull out this little clip. You're gonna need a 10mm wrench. This is a 10mm. Try not to use a regular 10. Get a flare nut tool that looks like this, because this holds on to that better. Sometimes on older cars these get seized, and a regular 10 you're going to round off the nut, so this gives you a little more grip. Break that off. You'll have some fluid dripping around here. I keep a rag close by, keep brake cleaner close by. But since this was attached, I literally broke this open, took this out, took this line off, put the new line on, tightened it up. Minimal mess. Absolutely clean job. And then this, I'm probably going to put an old screw in there and keep this for storage. Like I said, I didn't even take this off of the caliper. This stays together. Put it in a box, put it in the basement, sell it, do whatever. This is the new setup. So I think this is a good amount of slack up here. Once the wheel goes on, just make sure this isn't rubbing the barrel, and this isn't rubbing anything else. So this is how it's gonna be. The only thing I will say is this clip right here, putting it back in was pretty difficult, because the stainless line, I guess, doesn't have the same little groove like this has, or maybe it's just tighter tolerances, I don't know. But I put it there and I put a little chisel against it like that, and I hammered right here, and pop 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 pop, it went back in. Tighten this up. As you're tightening it, when this gets to a certain tightness, this will start spinning. So put a 17mm wrench here, 10mm flare nut up top. Tighten it a little harder than hand tight. There's really no way to torque these down, but don't go crazy on it. It's a tiny threaded fitting, so you'll know if you're over tightening it, and if you didn't tighten it enough, you'll have a leak. So once it's all tightened up, hit it with some brake cleaner, hit it with a rag, let it dry, and then when you're bleeding your brakes, keep an eye on these lines to make sure they're not leaking anywhere. And that's it. That's it. Now I'm gonna skip to the rears. Okay, we're back. All the calipers are on. I thought I might as well just show you guys how I swap these lines over. Let's see. So take your flare nut wrench, give it little spurts of power, and that's it. That's broken loose, and it's gonna start. Now you can take this wrench off and get a regular 10mm because it's already broken loose. The regular one is going to be a lot easier to spin and turn it with. So got a rag handy because it's going to start dripping right away. You're going to turn this as much as possible. See, it's already getting wet. I like to always have a rag just to soak up brake fluid so it doesn't spread and get all over the place. Okay. So that's probably pretty much out. Now, take this guy and get this little clip out. See, comes out pretty easily. Now, get this guy ready, because this is gonna come off just like that. Brake line's out. Swap the new one. Well, I should probably wipe this down. Nice clean seat. You're gonna feed this line through here. A quick transfer just like that. Thread it in carefully by hand. Make sure it threads properly. There we go. Another little wipe down. Now you can take the same clip. There's going to be a little groove there. You're going to put the clip back in the groove. And like I said, these don't want to go in because these new brake lines are a lot tighter tolerances. So you just hold it there and give it a nice little whack with your mallet. There you go. And now that it lines up with this bracket, you can go in just a tiny bit further. That's it. That's all it goes. Now you can go back to tightening this up. These are only 10 foot-pounds, so you can't go too tight on them. Like I said, 10 millimeter up here, 17 millimeter on the bottom. And just give it a couple of hand tight turns. That should be good. Let me get my brake cleaner. Always want to shoot some brake cleaner to clean the area, because then you'll be able to see if there's leaks anywhere later. Ooh, that stinks. Don't breathe it in. Alright, so this stuff evaporates, it dries everything out, and then later when you're doing your brake bleeding, you can detect any leaks if there are any. So that looks good. Now let me show you what this looks like. Finished product. Look at how pretty these came out. I'm pretty psyched about these. I masked it off real nice. You know, this stays silver. The brake pads are not painted like you see all these hack paint jobs when people just mask off the rotor and spray everything. So this looks proper. There's everything that's supposed to be painted is painted. Nothing that's not supposed to be painted is not painted. So that came out beautiful. This brake bracket sits pretty close, and there's a good amount of tension here, so try not to make this area too kinked or tight. Find the comfortable place. These lines always want to be comfortable, so all this slack, this is going to be for suspension traveling up and down. So when this comes up, this is going to come up. You want this little bend here for suspension travel. So that's how that looks. And then this is how the front looks. That loops around, this loops around. Same here, looks beautiful. And this is my last corner. I don't have to film this, but yeah, here's the little thing I shoved into the brake line. And see, It hasn't really been dripping. Now I just need to connect this part, and then that's it. Then I'm ready for brake bleeding. And I don't think, honestly, I will be filming the brake bleeding. There are millions and billions of videos on brake bleeding. Proceed with caution at your own risk or whatever. Brake bleeding is sometimes not very fun, so I'll let you guys do your own findings on proper ways to bleed your brakes. And yeah, that should be about it. Just some extra food for thought. Everybody online will tell you the most common rule. Brake bleeding should be done from the farthest wheel from the master cylinder to the closest, which means you're going to do this wheel, that wheel, this wheel, and that wheel. So you're working from the farthest closest to your brake master cylinder. However, a lot of modern Hondas have their own routings, and for this specific car the order is completely different. The order is 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't know what to do, but I'm gonna do it twice just in case. I'm gonna start it with the old school method. I'm gonna do farthest to closest, and then I'm gonna do the OEM method, because it doesn't hurt to, you know, bleed your brakes twice just in case. That's why I got 2 bottles, 2 decent sized bottles of brake fluid, and that should be enough. What I want to point out is that while I was swapping these lines, I didn't just break everything open and let fluid drip everywhere, because as you can see, this guy is still completely full. So what you want to do is, whenever you're breaking your brake lines open, have a good plan, like I kind of just outlined for you guys, so you're not just draining your whole system. Because one, if you drain your master cylinder below the little bottom point and you get air in there, you might have to bleed your brake master cylinder, and that's a whole different project. And two, if you drain enough of your fluid, you will get air in your ABS system, and that's another whole different problem. So try not to drain your system. Just let the stuff drip out a little bit, swap over the lines as quickly as possible, and then bleed or burp or whatever. No, burping is for coolant. It's way too early. So this is the next day from the last video, because I had to pick up my son. And funny story, I have 0 cars right now because this jealous little bitch decides to have problems every time I work on my Acura. So yesterday I drove an hour to pick my kid up from his mom's house, and when I got home, right in my driveway, the fuel pump died. So now I can't get to work today, and I really had to get to work today, so I have to finish up my Acura to get my ass to work, because yesterday I took a whole day off just to play with my car. Anyhow, let me go bleed my brakes, and I will report back when all the wheels are back on, and test drive and all the good stuff. Okay, bye. Alrighty, all wrapped up. Just lost about 14 pounds in sweat. Took a shower, and I'm gonna go for a test drive. Well, let's see how it goes. Love it every time. So this black coating on the rotors, I don't know how I feel about that. I guess that's gonna wear off instantly, but I don't know what effect that has on bedding in the brake pads. So we shall see. That's how the front looks, and that's how the rear looks. What a difference. That's with my honest opinion. Probably going to give it a few days of driving to see how I get used to the feel. You know, slow speeds, fast speeds. I got to break in the pads and rotors, bed them in, I should say, and then I'll take my final clip of video and to editing I go. Oh, by the way, look at the lug nuts. Look how nice those are. These are black chrome. Nice locks, nice lugs. No more weird tuner splines. I like this.